February 1959. 9 experienced hikers entered the frozen Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. Their goal was simple: complete an expedition and return home. They never did. Weeks later, rescuers discovered their abandoned tent cut open from the inside. Some of the hikers were found barefoot in the snow. Others had impossible injuries. More than 60 years later, one question remains: what really happened on Dyatlov Pass? This is NEXORA. Case File 001 begins now. In late January 1959, a group of 10 experienced hikers set out on a demanding skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. They were students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a skilled and respected outdoorsman. The route was classified as Category 3, the highest difficulty level available in the Soviet Union. Every member of the team was experienced. They had completed difficult winter expeditions before. This was supposed to be another successful journey. Before reaching the mountains, one hiker, Yuri Yudin, became ill and returned home. It was a decision that unknowingly saved his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the wilderness. None of them would ever return. Before leaving, the group promised they would send a telegram as soon as they returned. Their families expected to hear from them within 2 weeks. But the message never came. The team continued deeper into the northern Ural Mountains, where temperatures could fall below -30 degrees Celsius. Snowstorms were common. Visibility could disappear within minutes. Still, the hikers remained confident. They were well-equipped, highly trained, and accustomed to surviving in extreme winter conditions. On February 1st, they reached the eastern slope of a mountain known by the local Mansi people as Kolotsyakal, a name that translates to Dead Mountain. It was not considered dangerous because of legends. It was dangerous because of its brutal weather, powerful winds, and unforgiving terrain. Instead of moving down into the nearby forest for shelter, the group made an unexpected decision. They pitched their tent high on the exposed mountainside. That single decision would become one of the greatest mysteries in modern history. During the night, something happened. Something so terrifying that 9 experienced hikers abandoned the safety of their tent and ran into the freezing darkness. When the hikers failed to return, their families grew concerned. First, no one panicked. Delays were common during winter expeditions. But after several more days without any word, a search team was finally organized. Volunteers, rescue workers, soldiers, and even aircraft joined the operation. After days of searching through deep snow, they found the campsite. The tent was still standing, but something was terribly wrong. It had been cut open from the inside. The hikers hadn't used the entrance. They had slashed their way out. Inside the tent, rescuers found warm clothes, boots, food, cameras, and personal belongings. Everything needed to survive the freezing night had been left behind. Outside, a single line of footprints led away from the tent. Some footprints were made by people wearing only socks. Others appeared to be completely barefoot. The tracks disappeared into the darkness. Nearly 1.5 kilometers away. Whatever forced them out. It happened so suddenly that they chose the deadly cold over staying inside the tent. The footprints led rescuers through the snow toward the edge of a small forest. There, beneath a large cedar tree, they made the first horrifying discovery. 2 members of the group lay frozen to death. They were wearing almost nothing. No winter jackets, no boots, only thin clothing that offered little protection against temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius. The cedar tree itself raised even more questions. Several branches had been broken nearly 5 meters above the ground. It looked as if someone had desperately climbed the tree, trying to see something or trying to escape something. Between the cedar tree and the abandoned tent, rescuers found 3 more bodies. They were lying several hundred meters apart. Their positions suggested they had been trying to make their way back to the tent. They almost made it, but one by one, the freezing cold claimed them before they could reach safety. At that moment, investigators believed they understood the tragedy. They assumed the remaining 4 hikers had simply been buried somewhere beneath the deep snow. But when spring arrived, the investigation took a terrifying turn. Nearly 2 months passed before the remaining 4 hikers were found. By then, the snow had begun to melt. Search teams discovered a deep ravine, hidden beneath several meters of snow. There, the last 4 members of the expedition were finally located. But this time, the investigators were no longer looking at deaths caused by freezing alone. Several of the bodies had suffered devastating injuries. One hiker had multiple fractured ribs. Another had a severe skull fracture. Yet strangely, there were almost no external wounds, no deep cuts, no signs of a violent struggle. Medical experts later described the force behind the injuries as comparable to the impact of a high-speed car crash. One victim was also missing her tongue. Others were missing soft tissue from the face. Decades later, forensic experts suggested that some of this damage could have occurred naturally after death due to decomposition and scavenging animals. Even so, the combination of massive internal injuries, the abandoned tent, and the desperate escape into the freezing night left investigators with far more questions than answers. The mystery had only just begun. For decades, investigators, scientists, and independent researchers have tried to answer one simple question. What forced 9 experienced hikers out of their tent? One of the earliest explanations was an avalanche. The idea seemed reasonable. A wall of snow could have frightened the hikers, forcing them to escape immediately. But many experts pointed out a problem. The slope was relatively gentle, and the tent showed no clear signs of being crushed by a massive avalanche. Another theory focused on an unusual weather phenomenon known as katabatic winds. These powerful, freezing winds can suddenly rush down mountain slopes with incredible force. Some researchers believe the terrifying sound and pressure of these winds may have convinced the hikers that remaining in the tent was too dangerous. Others suggested military testing. At the time, the Soviet Union was conducting secret weapons experiments in remote regions. Some witnesses even reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky around the same period. However, no conclusive evidence has ever linked military activity to the deaths. Over the years, many other ideas have emerged. Infrasound, wild animals, human conflict, even paranormal explanations. But despite decades of investigation, none of these theories has answered every question. February 1959. 9 experienced hikers entered the frozen Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. Their goal was simple: complete an expedition and return home. They never did. Weeks later, rescuers discovered their abandoned tent cut open from the inside. Some of the hikers were found barefoot in the snow. Others had impossible injuries. More than 60 years later, one question remains. What really happened on Dyatlov Pass? This is NEXORA. Case File 001 begins now.